Did you accomplish your goals last year? How about last quarter? How about yesterday? It's such a lousy feeling when you get to the end of the day and you realize you just haven't accomplished that much. Can you remember a time when you were in total flow and had an incredibly productive day? Man, that feels good. In today's episode of the Land.MBA podcast, we're going to deconstruct 5 techniques that you can use to improve your productivity by an order of magnitude.
Welcome to the Land.MBA podcast, where we go deep into the business of land investing.
Hey, what's going on, Howard?
Oh, I am having a great day.
Are you getting Shihite done?
Jack is not here today, and by that I mean Jack Shihite. It's been a great day, incredibly productive. Got up early, got all the sort of necessary things in the morning done, dogs walked and fed, kid fed, took care of the family responsibilities, was at my desk early, had a clear vision of what I needed to accomplish today, and I have been knocking them out. It feels good.
God, I love those days. It does feel good when you're productive, especially when you're knocking out the big stuff, right?
Well, I mean, most of the really big stuff is, probably bigger than I could accomplish in one day. But I think that's the ticket. You got to be able to take those things. You got to take the meal and you got to break it down into bite-sized pieces so you can make some progress and, feel that sense of accomplishment like you're working towards the big goal.
Exactly. Yeah. There are so many distractions in our lives today. We've got just everything. A million notifications from our smartphones, whether it's work or play, Facebook and Instagram. And unfortunately, for both of us, I know, and most people nowadays, we have to do a lot of work related items on social media. And it's hard just to go on there and focus on work. You're like, oh, this guy said this, and it's so easy to just go down a rabbit trail and burn an hour, more than once a day, isn't it?
If there's one thing I hate, it's work. Isn't that what the CEO mindset's all about? I kind of get to sit back in my easy chair and think big thoughts, and then send a couple of tasks out to some people, and then all of a sudden things just start happening.
Yes.
I miss the big. Sometimes I do miss the big company.
Yes, until you're downsized.
It was ever that easy.
Until you're downsized. Yes.
Yes.
But
exactly. Well, today, I think this is such a great topic to talk about productivity, something you and I obviously have been talking a lot about lately, because now, there's sort of individual productivity, there's team productivity, there's organizational productivity. A lot of us in land investing, we may be, solopreneurs. So we just have to figure out how to get ourselves productive. But then as soon as, you work with a partner like we are, now we've got to do it together and make sure that we're both productive and working towards the goals. And then as the organization grows, we just had the podcast with Roman Northcutt, who's already built an entire organization with full-time employees. Now he's got to figure out how to make sure his entire organization is really, really productive. So we have come up with 5 techniques that we believe can really increase your productivity by an order of magnitude. Let me list those for you right now, and we're going to talk about them, but let's just get them out on the table so we can hear what we're going to be talking about. So the first one, goal setting. If we don't know what it is we're trying to accomplish, chances are we're not going to accomplish it. 2, understanding what's urgent versus what's important. We've all heard it before, but it bears repeating. 3, this is a big one. Smartphones. Are they tools of the trade, or are they distractions in the making. 4, schedule your work. 5, manage people. And by that, we're not just talking about employees, but we're talking about customers. We're talking about partners. We're talking about family members. We're talking about whoever could be impeding upon your time and your ability to stay focused on the task at hand. All right. So goal setting, urgent versus important, smartphones, how to schedule work, and how to manage people. Let's start with goal setting. To the master. Dave, how do you set your goals?
Well, I've experimented with many different models over the years and have gone from simple to really elaborate and always end up coming back to simple. I do like the 12-week year methodology. I also, if you want to manage your goals quarterly, that's great too. I like that methodology versus annual because, when I was on sales teams in the corporate world, we'd set annual goals and we'd kind of monitor our quarterlies, but our goals were really set annually. And so inevitably you always had this big fourth quarter push to get caught up. And if you were lucky, it aligned with your customers needing to spend the money they had allocated. And so, and then you end up with this big mad rush, and then you didn't spend that last part of Q4 or the entire Q4 really getting set up for Q1 next year. Now Q1 next year starts up, and you're starting with very little pipeline because you hadn't nurtured the longer term pipeline and you were just all focused on closing Q4. Now shortening up that timeline on your goals, no matter what you're doing, enables you to make quicker adjustments if things aren't going to plan, if you're off pace in certain areas, and you do a monthly review, a weekly review, and then a daily prioritization to build the plans towards those goals. And of course, everybody knows about SMART goals. So that's kind of how I like to look at it. I like to look at it on a quarterly or 12-week basis and break that down into 3 months. But I'm really focused a month at a time. So if I take my task list, if things come up that I have to do this, I use kind of the getting things done methodology, and I put it on there is the someday maybe list, then there is the this month list, this week list, and then the this week and this month, or I'm sorry, this week and today is what I'm managing most actively. So every Sunday I plan my week, and then every day, based on the things that I need to get accomplished for the week, I prioritize my daily tasks, and I try to do it into a top 3. And the 3 things that I most have to get done that's going to move the ball closer to the goal line. How about you?
That sounds great. I like that, getting things done. Just if you guys are listening to this, that concept came from an author named David Allen.
David Allen, yep. David
Allen, and he's even got a version of it called "Getting Things Done for Evernote." Both of them are good. I was in corporate for a long time, and I always thought that annual goals, or what they often call MBOs, management by objectives, was about the dumbest thing ever on the face of the earth. But I wasn't always able to articulate why so well. And it really didn't matter because I was not going to be changing it anytime soon in a large company. But eventually I figured it out because a guy named Daniel Pink wrote a book called Drive, and it was brilliant. And what he basically said is usually the annual strategy / objectives process will start in, say, September or October for the following year. And so maybe by November, December, you've got your objectives. It's filtered down from the top level of the organization down to all the lower levels, and you've committed to your objectives with your boss. And now you know what you're going to be doing for the rest of the following year. And then January 1st starts and you start working out in the year, and you know what you do? You work on what needs to be done. And what needs to be done often has no correlation to the ridiculous objectives that you set in October, which were just, nobody knows how to do it anyway. And then all of a sudden you hit September and you have 1 quarter left, or as we're coming towards October, you have 1 quarter left. You're like, oh my God, if I don't get my objectives done, I'm not going to make my bonus. And then all of a sudden your entire work stops. And all of your time is going to try to figure out how you can prove that you've satisfied a bunch of objectives that were created a year ago that have no bearing on the real world anymore and don't satisfy one customer need. And then when all that's done in January, then maybe you can get back to working for customers. It's so stupid. And that's why the 12-week year is so great, because you can plan a quarter out. It's still near enough that if you set the right objectives, you can see how they relate back to the business at hand and what needs to be done. Right. So I'm totally on board with that. I would add one other thing, though. We all have our to-do lists and our task lists, and I certainly have always had it. And it changed a little bit from listening to Tony Robbins, actually, because Tony Robbins says
he doesn't know anything.
Don't have a to-do list. What you need is a get-done list. In other words, what are the big, hairy, audacious goals that you're trying to accomplish? And make sure that every single day you're being productive, but you're being productive in the pursuit of those goals. So if you don't understand what the big goals are, you could end up spending a lot of time and energy and working on things that don't actually get you where it is you're trying to go. And so you don't need a goal that says, we're going to, launch 3 products into 5 markets next year or something like that. But you do need to say, I am going to launch something into something, right? And you put all your focus and energy into it. And then you can look at it, and maybe you've got a few other big goals. I'm going to launch a new website. I'm going to, I want to, migrate my revenue from all cash to 50% cash and 50% owner financing. Some ideas like that to shape your business and get to the financial goals. And then you look at all the work that you're doing. You're saying, is the work that I'm doing today, does this task fit into one of those goals? Because if it doesn't, I really need to ask myself, why am I doing it? And it really does bring focus and clarity to what you're spending your time on.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And even above that, so that it's one thing to plan out our goals and to map out the action items needed to hit the milestones to achieve those goals. It's another thing also to keep ourselves motivated to do it. So the why is really important, not just your big why on, why maybe, I want to achieve financial freedom or whatever, but why is this goal important? Why is this goal going to get me closer to my dream? So that you can keep that vision in your mind and keep yourself motivated.
Yeah.
So that's I think, kind of top of the list, but,
on this one, editor, stop here. Let's go into urgent versus important, but do the Landspeed thing here.
Okay. So, Howard, another item on our list is talking about urgent versus important. But before we discuss that, I want to say a few words about our sponsor, Landspeed. Hey folks, my name is David Van Steenkist, and I've been a real estate investor for over 10 years. I've used lots of different tools, but none of them has done for my business what Landspeed does. Landspeed covers every step in the land investing process, from ordering mailing lists to marketing, sales, and closing the deal. What I really like, though, is it anticipates my needs. When I think, oh, I wish I had a quick and easy way to evaluate return on investment on a potential property. Look no further, Landspeed does it. If I want to edit a deed after Landspeed creates it, it can do that too. Most systems just stick you with a PDF that's uneditable, and you got to go back into the system and edit the fields and do whatever you need to do, and it's a real pain in the rear end. Landspeed simplifies it. If I want to send 1 or 5 or even 40 neighbor letters at the click of a button, bam, Landspeed does it. But even with all that inherent capability, you get access to Landspeed community, you get weekly mastermind calls, and you get the best mailing rates in the business with no volume commitment, which is freaking awesome. Because if I just want to pop one contract to somebody, I don't have to pay $1.50. I still pay the bargain basement rate. And on top of that, customer service is stellar, quick, and they just do a great job. I've been very, very happy, very pleased with it. And look, I've been running my business on Landspeed for over 2 years. So take it from me. If you're serious about your land business, then check out Landspeed at facebook.com/landbizautomation. That's land, B-I-Z automation. And if you want $100 off, tell them you heard it from me, David Van Steenkist, on the Land.MBA podcast.
So where does that come from? That comes from like the Franklin Planner guys, or was it Stephen Covey?
I think so, yes.
Stephen Covey, yeah, one of those guys. It's kind of a brilliant, it is a brilliant little simple little matrix, urgent versus important. And it's so easy for us to get sucked up into the urgent at the expense of the important. We'll talk in a second about these little guys, but this is probably the worst culprit and getting our attention focused on urgent versus important. You know, that thing buzzes and I'm important. It buzzed. And it's some customer that needs or is asking about something. And we want to be responsive. So we stop what we're doing and we respond to it. And we think we're being productive because we're getting some off our plate. But what we're doing is we're completely losing focus on the task at hand. And it's hard to finish things because of all of the interruptions. So this urgent versus important to me is absolutely critical. And so I look at everything that I do and I ask that question. I mean, is it urgent? I mean, it can be urgent, but not important. And so if it's not important, then I'll put it on my list. And it's sort of like, here's a good analogy for it. It's like standard rate mail versus first class. Yeah. First class gets processed by the post office. And then after they're done with all the first class, if they have time left over, they work on the standard rate stuff.
Right.
That's the way it is. We should only be working on the important stuff. And then when we're done with the important stuff and we've got some time, some cycles left over, then we work on the urgent stuff.
Well, and generally the urgent pops up because we didn't take care of the less important non-urgent. Now the less important urgent now the less important became urgent. For example, we've got an expired credit card and we got an email from a vendor or a subscription, and we kept procrastinating, going on and changing the card. And now all of a sudden we're knee deep working on something important, and that tool won't work because we didn't pay the bill. So there's a reason for, okay, it's urgent, not important, but if it's urgent, it has to be taken care of. Or it may need to be, it's urgent for a reason, but it's not that important, but it became urgent. So it's just,
if the power's about to go out, then urgent becomes important pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that just kind of points back to, there are things that we procrastinate as well.
But I think the other thing that makes things urgent, are people. So when if a customer is going to be upset or angry or yell, we just don't want to deal with it. And so we knock it out and we allow them to take us off of our game.
That's a great example.
We need to we need to have some backbone here, and we need to run our business. I run a business. I run 3 businesses, and customers are the lifeblood, and I respect them immensely. And my goal is to deliver extraordinary customer service. But I need to do that in a way that allows me to not lose my focus and get things done, because I may satisfy a customer problem here, but if I don't, launch something over here, or, create a process over here, there's always going to be a consequence. And then they'll just come back to me and be upset about something else later on.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, that points to another one of our topics, and that is scheduling your work, or as 12-Week Year calls it, time blocking. And so, I think it's really important. Like, I have a couple of blocks in my schedule for, returning emails and phone calls. And so that's a great time for, customer service as well, if it's something that you can't outsource.
Yeah. The first time I ever heard about this was, it must have been around 2003 or something. The first time I ever read The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Mm-hmm. And he talked about this idea of putting a message in your voicemail that says, hi, this is Howard. Glad you called. I normally check mail at 9 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. If this is not important, please leave a message and I will get back to you at that time. If this is urgent, you can send a text. Yeah. And now you could also potentially try to push them to email as well. Anything that you can push to email is better. Because it's usually, you can do it at your time. There's this concept of synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. Synchronous communication is like what you and I are doing right now. We're face to face, we're talking. If I say something, you're going to respond. It's kind of synchronous. Email is very asynchronous. You can send me an email and I can respond to it tomorrow. I can respond to it when I get to it, when it's convenient for me. Very asynchronous. Text messaging is somewhere in the middle, right? It's still asynchronous, but it's there's a higher expectation of timeliness, I think, than email. And so by setting that kind of a message on your voicemail, one, you're taking what starts out being synchronous and you're moving it to asynchronous, which gives you more flexibility in when and how you respond. But the other thing is, you're kind of pushing back onto the other person to make a determination whether this is urgent or not. And not everybody, but most people will look at it and they will say, okay, I don't want to be the boy that cries wolf. I can't say everything's urgent. So, is this really text worthy or not? Or should I just leave a voicemail or send an email and let Howard respond when he gets to it? Most people do the right thing. And now, instead of you telling your customer that, look, I hear what you're saying, but this is not urgent to me, which is kind of a rude thing to say.
Sure.
You kind of let the customer or the other person tell you that this is a little bit less urgent. And you've got a little bit of time to respond. Yeah.
And I like that, also as it relates to what I like to call grouping distractions. So you have more control. So if you have a scheduled time to reply to emails and or phone calls, you're grouping your distractions. But now, and we've been talking about this as partners because we get ideas and we ping them back and forth on Telegram and text message and whatnot. And sometimes that's fine. And sometimes it's really annoying to you. And sometimes it's really annoying to me because we're in the middle of something. And so something to be respectful. It's not just about your time. Also, think about how you're impacting others' time if you're not, practicing good practices. So when I talk about grouping distractions, many times, and this happens in all walks of life, in the corporate world, in entrepreneurship, whatever, something comes to your mind, you want to ask so-and-so a question. And we're in the age of instant gratification. We want answers right now. We got our smartphones and everything. We ping somebody. And like my daughter's 14, she drives me crazy. If she's got a paragraph to say in a text, it's like a few words, send, a few words, send. And there's 15 texts. And it just drives me knuck and futz. So
Which, by the way, is how I felt last night when you sent 52 Telegram messages in 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I got an idea on a roll. So now we've started an Evernote that we share, and so it's not distracting. You can throw all your ideas on. But the principle is write down or type out, oh, I got an idea. I got a thought. I don't need an answer right now. And he doesn't need to be bothered right now. Write it down. And then, if you want to set up a meeting to discuss it, or shoot an email, or share the note and say, hey, when you get a chance, review this. None of it's urgent, but I've got ideas, or this, and this are pretty important. Please prioritize those. So you're not only grouping your own distractions, you're grouping others who you work with, their distractions. And it's really easy it's a great principle, and I don't always follow it. So today we actually, what brought up this topic was we were talking about it and how we're working together and we need to be better.
Yeah, I love that term, grouping distractions. It's a great term. But yeah, so we've been struggling with this. We pass each other ideas because ideas come when they come, and they're like an epiphany moment. Oh, I got to share this with Dave. Oh, I got to share this with Howard. But the fact of the matter is, just because it's an epiphany to us doesn't necessarily make it an epiphany to the other person, especially if they're involved in something else that they're focused on. So I think how we figured out how to deal with that is really, really creative and really good. To explain what we came up with
on the Evernote,
on how to deal with all this stream of conscious ideas that we keep coming up with that we want to share with the other person.
Write them down on something.
Write them down. But whereas I, as an individual, might have my big, hairy, audacious goals for my business, in Land.MBA, we're partners, so we have to do it together. So we should have shared hairy, audacious goals, and not a lot of them. It's like 3 to 5. And so as we come up with these ideas, we should be able to bucketize them into the categories of those 3 to 5 big, hairy, audacious goals, and then maybe have another one called miscellaneous for something that doesn't quite fit. That way, when we're planning and we're looking at how we're going to accomplish our goals, now we can go back and bring up all these ideas and say, okay, how do we want to use those to accomplish something meaningful versus let's just talk about some cool shit.
Exactly. No, I wasn't exactly sure where you were going, but categorizing them and tagging them is great. Like I've set up a kind of a catch-all inbox, and then you can drag them because as they come up, you don't want to have to categorize them. You just write your ideas down, because if has anybody experienced this? As I'm getting older, my short-term memory loss is really starting to show. But sometimes, for example, I'll go to enter. I'll be out and I'll have something. I want to enter an idea on my smartphone. By the time I get the app open, I'm like, I forgot what the hell the idea was. That's why David Allen says keep a small paper notebook in your pocket, and that's your scratch pad, and it gets transferred on to your long-term list later on. But a
little app on my phone that I found called Otter. Well, you can't see it. It's called Otter, and it just basically allows you to create a quick voice note. And so, and then I think if I haven't used it in a little while, but it transcribes it, and so. It's particularly useful when I'm driving and I come up with an idea in the car and I can't write it down anyway, but I want to capture it quickly. So I'll just go in there, I'll do the note, it'll transcribe it. And it's really important. I'll add this too. This is really important. My personal experience. It's not enough to write down the idea. You have to provide some context and explain the idea, because when you look at it 3 weeks from now, it's not going to make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the hell I was thinking back then. It just makes, all right, throw that one out.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
And that actually points back to another habit that's very important, that is to rewrite your notes on a daily basis, because you forget. And if you're in sales and you got a CRM, like I used to take notes and then at the end of the day, I'd put them all in my CRM. I found that, man, I had to put them in my CRM right away.
100%, 100%. But let's get back. I mean, you were talking about scheduling work, and scheduling work is really important because what I used to do is I would schedule all my meetings and leave the rest open. And there's different reasons why. I mean, one might be because it gives me an idea of where my open space is. But the other reason is because if you're in a larger company and everybody's using Outlook and they want to create a meeting, they can see your availability that way. Now, the advantage is if you block all of your work, you don't have much availability, which makes it really hard for people to book meetings with you, which actually isn't a bad thing. So the other thing is that if I say, oh, I need to do something, if I don't schedule it, it ain't getting done. Yep. I'm going to forget about it. There's no question about it. I don't care if it's on a to-do list or not. I've got to schedule time to make it happen. As you know, many people know, I had a pretty a life-altering change in my life in March, and my wife passed away. And a lot of people have, really come out and been there for my son and I. Well, that means I need to write a heck of a lot of thank you notes. Mm-hmm. I promise you, if it is not on my calendar to knock out some thank you notes, they ain't getting done. It just won't happen. So I schedule everything now that has to be done. In fact, and this actually is another tip that's not even on our 5 list, which is when email comes in. I worked with a guy once. He called it one-touch email. It's not really one touch. It's almost one touch. But basically, an email comes in. You have 3 choices. You either respond and act on it immediately, you file it, or you schedule it. Because if in that email you have to do something and you don't put it on your calendar, it will be forgotten and you will look like a jerk because you didn't do what you said you were going to do. So either do it immediately, or maybe it's just informational and you file it, or 3, it goes on the calendar. Those are the only options for incoming email. And that way you don't have to say, oh, man, that guy sent me an email. I was supposed to do something, but I can't remember what it was. Now I can't find the email. So, really good. So schedule work. Yeah.
Can I interject a really funny story?
Yeah.
Okay. Unless you were on a real train of thought, go ahead and I'll tell it later.
I was on a roll, baby, but you already derailed.
I broke your roll. So I don't know, probably 15 years ago, my wife and I we hadn't been married very long, and gosh, actually, it might have actually been when we got back from our honeymoon. Yeah, we got back from our honeymoon in Hawaii, and she worked for Hewlett Packard at the time, and she was remote based, so she worked from home, and she gets home and opens her Outlook, and there's like literally at least 5,000 emails in her inbox, and there was another woman with her exact name in Australia who was a customer service agent, and they got some of each other's mail sometimes and whatnot. But it's like, how are you going to possibly deal with 5,000 emails? There's no way. And so she just hit select all delete. And I'm like standing there going, you can't do that. You work for a Fortune 100 company. Aren't you going to get in trouble? It's like, you know what? The ones that there's no way I can process it. The ones that are important, they're going to re-email me or call me in a couple of days. So
brilliant. Oh, I love your wife. I love your wife.
Like time management 201, baby.
She is taking it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
You need to spend more time with her.
You're probably right. Although, all
right. So one last thing on scheduling work, and that is color coordination. Color coordination is very powerful. So I'll use one color for meetings, one color for work blocks, one color for family blocks. You can have many different colors. You can have a different color for absolutely important, can't be moved blocks. And it helps you visually understand your calendar a whole lot better. And it also is very useful if you use an assistant to help you manage your schedule. that they understand what's movable, what's not, where the flexibility lies. Absolutely, the simplest thing in the world to do, but hugely, hugely valuable. But schedule all your work.
Absolutely. And that colorizing your calendar ties nicely into how that calendar appears on your smartphone.
Oh, yeah.
And are our smartphones tools, or are they something else?
Taskmasters or distraction seekers.
Distracting machines, man.
I could not run my business without this, but sometimes I think I can't run my business with it. Mm-hmm. It's so distracting. And I actually had to create a set of rules to live by and how I was going to use this so that it became a tool for good and not a tool for evil, which it was quickly becoming. Do you have rules for your phone, or am I just a bridge too far?
My phone is from Satan. Oh God, we watched some of those old SNL outtakes with Dana Carvey the other night. It's hilarious. But yeah, I turn off all my my notifications. All I have is the badge that comes up. So it's still tempting when you see it, to click on. I should turn it to no notifications, but the notifications, you got to turn them all off. In fact, I have a news app that I recently installed. I have to uninstall the app because I cannot figure out how to turn off the notifications, and it bugs the crap out of me. But, you don't want email notifications because that's just going to, you'll get nothing done. The only thing I let ping, and I'll turn the ringer off most of the time, but it'll come up on the screen, is text. And again, I think you got to manage that. If you're getting a lot of junk texts and stuff, then maybe you've got to put on your calendar, check text along with emails. Managing the notifications and all the distractions is a real hassle. And like we talked about a little bit, especially in this business, we do business on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And so you've got to check them. I mean, even if, like, for example, in my land business, I have my VA doing most of the correspondence on leads on Messenger. But there are other people for our coaching business, for just other land investors that maybe we trade questions with and things like that like to communicate via Facebook Messenger. So I turn those notifications off, though, because it's just I try to stay off of it as much as possible, and I'll just have 2-3 times a day when I check it. And I tell people, if they sent me something important, I tell them, hey, don't expect a timely response if you Facebook message me.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I turn off all my notifications except for text, because you can't leave a message on voicemail that says, if this is urgent, text me, and then they text you and you don't respond because the notifications are off. Exactly. So there are some things you just have to allow through. I really, in Outlook, I know when I was in the corporate side, you could set it up so that you would only get you could set up notifications for certain people and turn it off for everybody else. It would be really nice if we could do that in text as well. But so that's pretty much the only thing that I have notifying me right now. Our text messages, and everything else is turned off. I've also deleted a bunch of apps that are just time wasters. Yeah. And I have made some rules around when I can use my phone. There are certain times when I designate I am not allowed to use my phone, and I don't bring it with me. Things like going to the bathroom or dinner time, or it's nighttime is a very interesting thing because so many people now use their phone as their alarm clock. I do. It would probably be wiser to just leave my phone downstairs at night and use an alarm clock. But I do keep it upstairs. But somehow I've managed to, like when I try not to look at my phone at night. Once I get in bed, I'll try to I'd rather read or do something like that. But when I get up in the morning, I usually, just because I have the badges, I have the notifications, I don't open things unless it looks really, really urgent. But it just gives me a quick sense of what's going on in the world, in my world. And then I just put it down and get ready for my day. But it can be dangerous to keep it by your bedside.
I would agree.
It's like that. It's like that crack pipe, just one more hit. One more hit.
It's a freaking crack pipe. It is, I swear. And like, I'll have a well executed bedtime, getting ready for bed and getting myself relaxed, and I'll get in bed early. And then I just want to check this, just see if this guy responded to me on Facebook or if I got any leads. And then before you know it, you've deprived yourself of a couple of hours of sleep. I like to read in bed too, but if my wife is asleep, I don't want to turn a light on and read paper. I do a lot of reading on Kindle, and I should actually buy myself a Kindle because I'll use Kindle on the phone, but then it's too easy to just, let's just jump over and check Instagram. And then you really don't accomplish your goal in reading, and you just get distracted and deprive yourself of sleep. I recently did buy this little tiny alarm clock that's very simple. You can put it on vibrate, and it's flat. You can actually put it under your pillow if you want to, but I tend to get up very early. It doesn't wake my wife up, and then I'll put my phone in the bathroom. So I started doing that, but I haven't been consistent with it yet. And but when I do, it's so much better. I go to sleep instead of.
I don't know why I haven't thought about this, but a long time ago I had a Fitbit, and Fitbits will wake you up with just like a little gentle vibrating on the bracelet. And I've gone back to wearing one, but I haven't set it up for as an alarm. I'm going to set this back up as my alarm, so I don't need my phone to do it anymore, and it'll just be on my wrist. And then I don't even really need to bring the phone upstairs with me anymore.
Yeah. The other bad habit that I'll sometimes do, I'll get up early, but then while I'm laying in bed, instead of getting up and getting myself together while I'm laying in bed, I'll check my phone. Not a good way to start your day. Even if you're just going to prioritize and set your tasks, it's just, it doesn't work well. Get up, get your coffee, get your shower, get your exercise, or whatever your morning routine is. And then look at your phone when you sit down to prioritize your day.
I always try to think back to the old days. I wouldn't be able to check my email until I got to work.
Yeah, exactly.
And somehow we all managed.
Yep.
I do have to tell you though, of all my devices, my phones, my computers, my everything that I have device-wise, my absolute favorite device is my Kindle. You could take everything away, just you can't take my Kindle.
Yeah, I need to buy one because I love to read on Kindle, and I'll have multiple books going where I'll read a little bit of this one, a little bit of that one, and it makes it so convenient. But the Kindle doesn't have all the distractions that the phone does.
Is it just me, or is it getting harder and harder to count on a job for our financial security? Who would have ever believed that we would go from the lowest unemployment in 50 years to 40 million people unemployed? Whether you have a great job and want to create a second income, or you're recently unemployed, you need to check out Land.MBA, your one-stop shop for land investors. Investing in vacant land is a proven business model that can help you build a reliable and scalable second income. Imagine a business where you love what you do. There's no limit on how much money you can make. You can operate your business from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And best of all, you can never be fired or downsized. If this sounds good to you, Land.MBA provides everything you need to get your business up and running and delivering income quickly. You get education, an end-to-end video course, and optional coaching to help you get started faster and turn your energy into income. You get tools so you can automate and outsource the busy work and stay super organized. You get access to a thriving community of like-minded investors, which is a powerful way to share best practices and develop potential partnerships for growing your business. And finally, you get access to deal financing, so you never have to pass on a great investment opportunity due to limited funds. Our team has over a decade of real estate investing experience and has the knowledge and experience you need to help navigate any investing scenario. And with Land.MBA, we hold nothing back. Because there are no upsells, you get access to all of our combined knowledge right out of the gate. So don't wait to provide your family with financial freedom. Sign up today for Land.MBA's soup to nuts land investing video course. Just go to courses.land.mba and use coupon code FREEDOM to get 25% off. That's courses.land.mba and coupon code FREEDOM. And let us help you say goodbye to your JOB and hello to financial freedom. All right, we got one more to get through.
Yes,
and
we do.
And that is how to manage people.
The peeps. Your employees, your virtual assistants.
And we've actually covered this a little bit, where we said, how to change the voicemail on your phone. But, it's about communicating in an appropriate and polite way with everybody else to basically self-regulate so that their urgencies don't become your urgencies, and that that you are basically saying, you are very important to me, but I have to manage my time and I need your help, and please self-regulate, know the difference between important and urgent, and, give me the respect to respond, in an appropriate way that's going to meet your needs, but not destroy my productivity.
Yeah, and I think the grouping distractions principle also works very well with your staff. It's always reciprocal because it's your own, and it's also theirs, and they're working for you, so you want them to be as productive as they can be. And I think it also ties back into calendaring your work calendar, your communication. I do a Zoom call on Tuesdays and Thursdays with my VA team, and we keep it very simple. What's working, what's not working, how can I help, and these are the priorities. That's it. 15 minutes, twice a week.
That's nice. I like that. There are a few other things. Now, some of this may be more of a larger organization, but they're worth mentioning. So this is an idea that I had picked up when I read when I read The 4-Hour Workweek. It's that Tim Ferriss wrote. But I applied this when I was working at Level 3 Communications in Colorado. So we had cubes, but we had, they were like offices. They were high walls and you had a door. So, it was almost like an office. But you didn't want to close the door. It got stuffy in there. So I'd leave the door open, and I had one of those headsets for my phone. And even if I was just working and I wasn't on the phone, I would always keep it on. And if somebody knocked on my door, I wouldn't, my back was to the door. I wouldn't even look at them. I would just say, yeah, excuse me, can you hold on 1 second? Yeah, thanks. What's up? And I would look back at them and they would think I was on the phone. They're like, oh, I'll come back later. And I would say, just can you send it an email? Just send it to me in an email. Oh, yeah, that's fine. And they would walk away. I didn't have anybody in my ear. I wasn't talking to anybody on the phone. I didn't want the distraction. So I drove everybody to email so I could respond asynchronously, when it was convenient for me. So that was one thing as far as just, interruptions. The other thing is meetings. I would go to a meeting and I would go to whoever was running the meeting. And I would say, hey, I hate to ask you this, but I've got this really big project. Is there any way I could go first on the agenda because I need to get back to my desk?
It's great.
And they would let me go, and then I would just leave the meeting. But the best story of all, I worked with this guy named Joe, who is an absolute business genius, but an absolute crazy man. And we were really young. We just started working at Lucent Technologies, this 40,000 person company. We were pretty junior, but he was a born entrepreneur. He knew what he was all about. He didn't give a crap what anybody thought about anything. And we were in this, he had this rule. I mean, he had rules. He taught me rules, right? One of his rules was, I will never be in a meeting longer than an hour. If you can't figure out how to get it done in an hour, that is not my problem. So we were in the part of Lucent that was called Business Communication System, which ultimately was spun out and became Avaya, which is a huge company even of its own. The president of the business unit was a lady named Pat Russo, who went on to become the CEO of Kodak, and then she came back and became the CEO of Alcatel-Lucent after the merger. So she was high roller. So anyway, we're in a big meeting with her, and we're all around this table, and she is speaking at the moment when an hour came up. And while she was speaking, Joe stands up, closes his books, and he goes, if you'll excuse me, I've got some work to do. He walked out. He would not violate his rules, even for her.
Oh, geez. I love it. I love it. Yeah, controlling meetings in a corporate environment can be really challenging. God, when I was the managing director at Markham Amage in Sweden, I mean, we had meetings upon meetings upon meetings, but, we were a very projectized. It was a matrix organization, but with heavily projectized. I ran the entire organization. So every department head reported to me. And then on a much closer level, all the engineering managers, the project managers, and the program managers all in the engineering group. And so, we had a lot of planning meetings and brainstorming meetings, which were productive because we were actually creating things. But managing those was a challenge to keep them from going on and on and on and on. And then we'd have the various, manager meetings and whatnot. And it was just ridiculous. So, yeah, I finally had to make a policy with all of the separate managers. I said, you got 3 bullet points. That's it. Boil everything down to your top 3. And let's keep it short.
Great. Everything else is just listening to yourself talk.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's going to remember it anyway.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're kind of hitting the end here. So let's just do a quick summary of where we're at. So goal setting. And I think as land investors, this is absolutely critical. All right, this quarter, I'm going to get my website out. I'm going to increase my deal flow to 5 properties a month or 10 properties a month or whatever it is. Have that goal and deconstruct it. Figure out what it's going to take to achieve that goal and break that into weekly goals and daily tasks, and you will get there. If you do not break it down into weekly goals and daily tasks, the likelihood of getting there is actually quite small. Understand urgent versus important, and look at everything that you do and bucketize it. Is it urgent or is it important? If it's urgent but not important, then I'll do it when time is available. Otherwise, I'm not going to worry about it. You must guard your time jealously. 3, smartphones. Figure out what your rules are. Figure out how to turn this into a tool for good and not a tool for evil. Schedule all of your work. Get it on there. Color coordinate your calendar and do your best to live by it. I mean, it's different for different people. Some people it's just their nature to live by tasks and calendars. It is absolutely not mine. I'm a creative type. Once I get on a point and I want to talk about it, I don't want to stop until I am done. Yeah. That is not necessarily conducive to a calendar. So it's not actually my nature to do that. Yet I will say that doing it has made all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Can I just interject right there? With regards to calendar, the one word we didn't mention was routine. And the things that need to be on your calendar are your routines. A, routines. B, time slots for grouping your distractions like emails and returning calls. But, and think about what those routines are in your business and in the land business, like, your area research, doing your mailing and your marketing, and the critical things in your business that have to get done that are the important, and you don't ever want them to become urgent. Those got to be in your calendar.
Absolutely. 100% agree. And then finally, managing people, whether they're employees, customers, partners, family members, whatever. communicate with them, make sure your expectations, that they understand you created the right expectations with them. They know what your rules are. I check mail at this time, or I don't check mail at that time. If it's urgent, then text me. Please don't text me unless it really is urgent. Help them to help you to not turn their unimportant urgencies into your important urgencies. 5 rules. And if you execute these 5 rules, I guarantee you your productivity will improve by an order of magnitude.
And you'll be just like Howard.
Hopefully better.
With that, adios. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Later. We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.